Okay, everyone, hopefully we are live. This is Becky DeGrosso with Counseling Wise, and welcome to the webinar today. We are going to talk about how you can set yourself and your private practice apart from your competition using teleseminars and webinars. Before I get started, I just wanted to touch base and make sure that you all can hear me. So if you can see the chart and you can hear me, then please go ahead and type yes in the chat box, okay, so that I can see. Yay, Megan says we can see and hear. Awesome, good deal. Tammy says I can see and hear you loud and clear. Great. Okay, I always want to make sure that that's the case before I start yapping away here. Make sure I'm not talking to myself. Okay, so I'm gonna just start in. So this is for you today if, in fact, you really want to become the go-to person, okay, in your city or your niche for your specialty. And that is, I see lots and lots of yes, yes, yeses. There's definitely a delay on the chat. So great, everybody. Wow, awesome. Lots of folks here today. Good. I'm glad that you can hear. Okay, so if you want to become the go-to person in your city or your niche for your specialty or specialties, even if you're introverted, okay? So one thing you may not know, if you've been on a lot of my webinars, you may not know that I am very introverted, actually. And this is a way that I have been able to really grow my practice without feeling like I'm always out there, shaking hands and kissing babies, because that's not me. So it's enabled me to really get the word out about the expertise that we have at Counseling Wise and, all the knowledge and experience that we have, and do it in a pretty comfortable way, all right, for me. So anyway, that's what this is all about. This is something that you can actually do even if you're an introvert, which I know most therapists are. So if you want to create a ton of momentum in attracting clients and maintain it, this is something that is extremely effective, and we'll talk about that. And if you're really tired of waiting and you want to make something happen. Okay, so I will talk more about that to show you how I know that you're tired of waiting and all that good stuff. But that's, that's basically what the problem is with growing a practice. A lot of reach can be had online, right? But it takes a while. So most people, most therapists will join some directories. Maybe they'll join goodtherapy.org and Psychology Today and whatever. And they, of course, put up a website, and then they wait for things to happen. And even if you have really good SEO, okay, search engine optimization on your site, even if you've done a really good job or hired the right people and you got that dialed in correctly, it still takes time. Okay, Google isn't going to say, oh, look, here's a brand new site and they have all the right signals, and let's just pop them up to the top. They need you to build some trust and authority over time. And if there's other sites in your market that have been up there for a number of years and they have good trust and authority, then it's just going to take a while for you to bubble up. That's just the way it goes, okay? So it does take time. And many of you, and I know that myself, I felt this way, we feel powerless in the waiting. What else can we do, right? I mean, we're waiting and we're waiting. We think we're doing everything right, and then we're just waiting for the world to find us. And that's a pretty powerless position, to be in that waiting position, okay? So most people don't really know what to do to speed things up. A lot of folks end up doing some things that end up biting them in the end, such as doing bad backlink building, bad SEO, hiring black hat SEO companies, and that type of thing. You can certainly do Google AdWords, and that'll get you some visibility. It won't necessarily give you a whole lot of expertise or credibility for being the expert, okay? And so I have found that this has been really effective for that. So let me talk about the reasons that teleseminars and webinars work just so darn well. They just work really, really well. One of the reasons is that as opposed to just having a website that's sitting there with all this great information on it, when you have a teleseminar or a webinar, you actually have something that is concrete and something that is very specific to offer to folks, okay? And so with that, this is a huge difference. It's much different than a website that is just sitting there. Okay. The other thing is the offering for this is time limited, right? Because it's a scheduled event. It's time limited. So people are actually going to have to decide, this is going to go away. This is here now. It's going to go away. Do I want to take this opportunity? Okay. It propels them to take action because it's a scheduled event. So they have to consciously say yes or no, rather than, I'll go to that website later. It'll be there. All right. So this is a huge part of why this works so well. And it's something that you can really use to your benefit in your practice. The other thing is, there's so many reasons this is just amazing. The other thing is that, rather than just going to your site and visiting for just a few minutes, 1 to 3 minutes, whatever, then what's going to end up happening is that folks tune into you for up to an hour. Okay. I mean, you can have it, you can have that, the time frame be whatever works for you. It could be a half hour. Some people do really short webinars, like lunchtime things for a half hour. Others will do, up to an hour. I wouldn't suggest that you do something that's over an hour, but bottom line, you get people tuning into you for a big duration, and that is like massive attention, okay? As opposed to if you look at the bounce rate on your website, or if you look at the average visitor duration on your website, usually they're going to say, 1 to 3 minutes. If you get up into the 4 minutes, that's awesome. That's like really, really awesome, okay? So this is another reason why it's great. And then finally, the other reason is this. If you have something that you're doing on a webinar or a teleseminar, it's being captured in a digital format, okay? It's being captured. Therefore, that is going to drive attendance later. It's going to keep delivering going forward. So you have this face-to-face thing, first of all, okay, or the voice-to-voice, where no one has to get in their car, right? They don't have to get in their car. They don't have to drive anywhere. And that's huge in terms of attendance. And I'll show you some numbers on that. A psychologist that we worked with who was doing presentations in his town for years and years, and then his attendance drove through the roof by having this in this format, okay? And then the other thing is that this keeps delivering going forward. So once it's captured in a digital format, people are going to watch it over and over. You can have a webinar out on YouTube. You can have a teleseminar up on your website, a webinar up on your website, either way, and it's going to keep going, okay? So that's huge. So I realize when I'm talking to you all about this, and, I don't mean to say that therapists are terrible with tech or anything like that, but, we're one of the more challenged groups. There certainly are folks within this sector who are quite technical and very comfortable with tech, but this may sound scary to some people because we're not the most tech savvy group, okay? So you may not know how to get an audience. When you think about doing this, you may think, oh, well, how am I going to get anybody to come? Okay, how am I going to get them to come? You may also not know what to talk about, all right? And we're gonna talk about that a little bit today, and you'll see where you can get more information on that. But you just may not know, okay, if I were going to do this and get visibility, what would I really talk about? So we'll cover that. You may not know the specifics on how to market your teleseminar or your webinar, okay? And so with that could be pretty scary, right? So we're going to talk about that. And then, of course, you may not know how to use the technology. That's all there is to it, okay? You just may not know how to use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover all of those things today. So let me tell you first about my story, okay? Let me tell you first about my story. In August of 2012, and that was like 2.5 years ago, I decided to focus exclusively on the therapy niche, okay? And what I mean by that is that prior to that, I was building websites and doing consulting in all sorts of different niches. We had e-commerce clients selling fabric online, millions of dollars of fabric. We had home builders, we had national consultants, we had all sorts of different people all over the place, okay? And I just decided I can't be an expert in all these other things, right? But therapy is my first love. So I decided I'm just going to focus exclusively on the therapy niche. Well, so I launched a website, Counseling Wise, in August of 2012. And I thought, okay, this is great, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule bi-monthly calls. And I was actually scared to death to do it because I am an introvert, but I was going to schedule these bi-monthly calls where anyone on my list could call in and ask my partner and I, Andy Gross was my partner at the time, ask us any questions they wanted to about how to market your practice online. All right, so that's what we were going to do. Well, that was a very, very clear failure, okay? It was a real drag. We got like 1 to 3 people each time. And actually what happened is, I think the first time we had a call, we had 1 person. And then the second time we had a call, we had 2 people. And then, 2 weeks later, we had a call, we got up to 3. And we thought, okay, this is going really slow, but at least it's going in the right direction. And then the next time we were back down to 1. Okay, so obviously something wasn't working. Right? That was kind of a real drag. We had all this knowledge, okay? Well, then in February of 2013, Andy decided that he was going to leave the company. He wanted to go pursue his music more seriously and doing that. And, it was just too much work. Had a new little guy in the house, and actually he's my godson, little Xavier. But he decided he was going to go pursue his music. So I was sitting there going, okay, great. How am I going to do this myself? Because Andy had overseen all of the website development that we do. And I thought, there's no way that I can even do this job anymore. I can't even have this company. I felt very alone. I was actually considering taking a job, the big job. And I actually interviewed in a couple of places. And I remember having this interview at the Mental Health Center of Denver. And the guy there, the guy in charge of all the tech stuff there, was someone that I had worked with before. And he said, what I'd really like you to do is, I would love for you to be, a business analyst, to really analyze the processes we have here and help us improve the processes. Well, I hate to say it, but that made me sick to my stomach. Okay, I was driving home and I actually really felt ill. I thought, I cannot go into another big company. I'd been at IBM for 20 years. Can't do that. Can't go into another big company. Oh, I just got to make this work. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do this by myself, right? I don't want to go be a cog in some big wheel somewhere. And so I decided I just couldn't do it, but I had to figure this out. So the big shift happened when I actually learned from a certain webinar expert on how to make teleseminars and webinars successful. Okay, I basically just, it's true that the teacher shows up when the student is ready. I think I was totally ready. So probably something I had seen before that didn't make any sense to me. Light bulbs went on. It's like, oh, that's how you do it. Okay, cool. So I changed my approach, and that was like, 2 months after Andy left. And the results happened pretty quickly. So prior to this approach, we'd had 3 tops. And then all of a sudden, the very first time I used this process, we had 36 people who registered for the webinar. All right. And then the next time it was 109. And then over time, we got up to 260. And we got up to 441 earlier this year. So that's the number of people who are registering for our webinars. So it was definitely a big aha moment, really valuable information that I'm going to share with you guys today on how to make this work. Once I figured it out and I got it turned around, then I thought, I got to teach you guys how to do this because it'll make a big difference for you. Our own list grew from about 300 people back there in the beginning to over 2,300 now. And so, things are really good. Our monthly revenue has grown over 6 times since then. All right. So this, I really credit the webinars as what has totally catapulted Counseling Wise. and it is something that can totally work for therapists too, okay? So it's not just for me. I taught this to 2 psychologists. I tested it out there. So the first psychologist, the guy that I referred to before, he had been doing talks before, and he usually had like 25 people, and he would do them in community libraries and that type of thing. So he was doing these talks, and he had a historical high of like 60 registrations, which was, you know, some really tantalizing topic, I guess. He had a pretty big list, but as soon as he did this, his registrations went up to $200 for a certain teleseminar he was doing. All right, so that was pretty cool. And then the second psychologist I talked to was doing presentations as well, and got over 100 registrations for his first webinar. Okay, so you know, you know what? I actually screwed this up. The first one, I'm sorry, I'm brutally honest with you guys. The first one was a woman who had been doing teleseminars. That's right. She had been doing them already, and she had had 60 people opt in. She had a list. I mean, her list now is like 10,000, but she had a list at the time, maybe of 6,000 or something, but she could only get like 60 people to register. And she had 200 the first time. And that was for a teleseminar. The next guy is the guy who was actually doing face-to-face presentations. So sorry about that. He had 25 to 30 people at a time. He was the one who was doing the libraries, and he got over 100 registrations for his first webinar. So that is pretty sweet. That convinced me, okay, so this same technique, this same whole process that I'm going to talk to you about today works in this field as well. All right, so let's talk about this. It works not only in my national niche of working with therapists, but it also works for therapists too. And the thing is, there's very specific ways to do this, okay? And consistency is key. So if you have listened to a bunch of my stuff, you may get the feel for it, and you probably won't be able to dissect it. You know, it's one of those things where you can watch something, you can go, wow, that's really working. I'm going to reverse engineer that and make it work for me. But until someone gives you the right glasses to look through, you may not understand exactly what you're trying to do. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to walk you through the steps, okay? So the first step is to create a strong title and intriguing bullet points about what you're going to cover in your webinar or your teleseminar, okay? And this, by the way, will work even if you're doing face-to-face presentations. This part, the marketing of it, kind of the positioning of what it is that you're going to talk about, the title is ultra important, and the bullet points are very, very important too. You really need to hook people with those. So this approach, this part, this step works whether you're doing face-to-face. Like if you get invited to talk at a conference, you should definitely use this piece, okay? Definitely. Then the next thing you need to do is put together an email campaign, and that email campaign needs to follow a specific schedule. So it's not just the content of the campaign that matters, it's how often you send it out, how the time frame in which you send it out. I was doing this all wrong. I was sending stuff way ahead of time, and people don't have attention span. Okay, so now we pretty much send them like 4 to 5 days before, and then we get a lot more. We get a lot more activity there. Tammy says, "I need a course on creating titles." There you go. We will talk about that later here, Tammy. The other thing is, you want to then, once you have this email campaign ready, you want to offer the event to not only people that are on your mailing list, right? You already have some kind of email list, hopefully, even if it's very small, you know, even if it's your mother and your brother and your Aunt Sue. But you want to offer this event to others that are not on your email list, all right? And this is key. This outreach that you can do is what is really going to grow your audience. And then you want to create and give this compelling presentation. And you can do this either via a teleseminar format, if that is more technically comfortable for you and for your audience, or you can do it via a webinar, which, of course, you know, you guys are all on this. You're sitting somewhere, hopefully pretty comfortably in your own surroundings. You didn't have to travel. You didn't have to park. You didn't have to, you know, take a lot of time away from your day. You can just pop in and hear it. Finally, the end result of this, of course, is that you have this recording, right? We talked about how it's in a digital format, and now you have the recording either of the voice teleseminar or of the webinar, and that's going to be out there somewhere. You're going to post that strategically, and that is really going to pay off for you in the future. It's not just a one-time payoff, okay? It's pretty amazing what happens. All right, so that's the prep stuff. Now, let's talk about the marketing pieces a little bit more here, all right? So first of all, obviously, you need a topic, right? So you know who you want to work with. You know what they're interested in. You need to have a topic that they are actually interested in, okay? So for instance, you guys are interested in growing your practices, right? You're interested in really becoming the go-to person in your location or for your niche. So that's why my topic is what my topic is, right? It garnered your interest. The next thing is you need to create an enticing title for your talk, okay? So, you know, for this one, we have set yourself apart from your competition with teleseminars or webinars. We've used set your private practice apart. All of those things are enticing. We also, if you noticed, we sent out in the email, even can introverts become the experts in their cities, okay? Because a lot of folks are introverted. So we really try to catch your attention with that. Then you need to create enticing benefits or bullet points about your talk. And so for ours, we had various bullet points in our marketing. And, you know, they must have hit the nail on the head because we have hundreds of you here opted in for this, even if you can't attend live. And so that is something that you can do, and we'll talk about that. I'm going to show you some examples here, all right? And then you basically put all that in an email, and you send it out on a specific schedule, and then you also post this information to other quote-unquote watering holes, okay, where people hang out, people in your market where they hang out. So for us, we'll do outreach on LinkedIn, we'll post in Facebook groups, we'll post in local therapist, what do I want to say? You know, groups that are local therapists that are affiliated with some kind of institute or something like that. And that's how we get outreach. That's how we go out there and find people who would be interested in this. So what I'm going to show you right now is the wrong way to do it, okay? And this is kind of the default way that people do this. They say, hey, I want to give a talk, or somebody says, can you give a talk? And they go about it the wrong way. So here's a typical scenario. Someone says, okay, I'm a child therapist and I know a lot about childhood anxiety, and I think parents will be really interested in learning more about childhood anxiety so they can help their kids. So I'm going to do a talk on that. That's my topic. Okay, everything's perfectly fine up to this point. Childhood anxiety, sure, that is a big problem and parents would be interested, sure. So that's great. Okay, we're good up to that point. But then here's where it starts to fall apart. I think I'm going to title my talk Childhood Anxiety Disorders. Okay. My bullet points that I'm going to use to market this are: 1, anxiety disorders are the most common form of psychopathology in children and adolescents. Well, that's probably pretty true, but so what? Okay, that's the first bullet point. And then the next bullet point is I'm going to cover what constitutes an anxiety disorder. And then I'm going to talk about the 7 most common classifications of anxiety disorders. And then I'm going to talk about the percentage of children that have these issues. And finally, I'm going to discuss comorbid diagnoses. All right. Now, this is a very typical, in fact, I took this from a real talk, typical way of going about it when you don't know what you're doing in terms of marketing. All right. So now we're going to contrast that to the right way of marketing. The right way is, again, the topic was fine, right? No problem there. Childhood anxiety, that's all good. But the title needs to be much better. So we're going to make this title, Does Your Child Have an Anxiety Problem? 3 Ways to Know and What to Do. All right? That is talking directly to the parent. That is going to have a much bigger impact than a title called Child Anxiety Disorders. All right? So this gives promise to the parent that there's going to be something good there. And then for the bullets, we're going to come up with different bullets. So we're going to use the 3 most common causes of anxiety in children, normal childhood fears, in parentheses, that you shouldn't worry about, symptoms you should watch for at various ages, and then what to do if you suspect a problem with your child, and finally, risks if your child is not treated. Okay? Now look at those bullet points. Don't you think that those are going to really catch the attention of the parent much more so than, you know, the 7 types of anxiety disorders, comorbid diagnosis, blah, 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 right? This is speaking to them in their language, and this is really going to catch their attention, all right? And then we basically take that title and we take these bullets and we put it in an email format that works, okay? And so we send out an email to our list and we send this out to other people, basically saying, hey, on such and such a date, I'm giving a free whatever, either a teleseminar or a webinar. And it is titled, Does Your Child Have Anxiety? Have an Anxiety Problem? 3 Ways to Know and What to Do. During this free blah, 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 I'll share with you the 3 most common causes of anxiety in children, normal childhood fears that you shouldn't worry about, symptoms to watch for at various ages, what to do if you suspect a problem with your child, and risks if children are not treated. We could make that last one even more compelling by saying risks if your child is not treated, okay? And then you can just do the rest of it. You know, this will be recorded, but the replay will only be sent to those who register, yada, yada, yada. Now, if you've been on my list, you have seen this format day in and day out, okay? Every month you see this format, and it works, okay? That's why I use it. It works, and you can use it too. So that's the example of the email. Then let's talk about outreach, okay? So you're going to send it to your own email list, of course. Again, even if it's very small, including your mother, your brother, and your Aunt Sue. Then you're going to send it to other folks that would be interested. Now, who would be interested in child anxiety topics, okay? Well, how about send it to pediatricians and family docs, okay? If you send it to them, what happens? One thing that happens is they can tell some of their patients, right? The anxious kid comes in, the parent comes in, or they have those patients that they know are, and they let them know, hey, there's this therapist who's doing a talk on this. Also, in the mind of the pediatrician and the family doc, boing, ooh, we have an anxiety specialist. Awesome. This person's so specialized that they're giving a talk on this. Huh, that's pretty cool. So they remember you. You're going to send it to school counselors, same thing happens. Other psychotherapists, same thing happens. Speech therapists, same thing. You can also publish it in the paper if you feel like doing that, etc. There's a bunch of ways to do it. Okay, and this doesn't even talk any of the online ways to reach out in terms of social media and that type of thing. All right. So this is how you reach out. Now let's talk about the presentation itself. Okay. So we can have a wrong presentation, which is that presentation I was talking to you about. Okay, here's the introduction chart. Boring as heck, right? Maybe there's some words in there that could get someone's interest, but give me a break, you know? It's like syndromes and I don't know. It's just not working, okay? And then here's how they started the presentation. They had this, okay? So this is very text intensive, jargon intensive. It's really, I don't know, it's really a presentation for other professionals, not for parents. So this is not going to work, all right? I see some of you are asking questions. That's great. Keep typing them in because we're going to get to those when I'm done here, all right? So keep typing in questions if you have them. All right, so now we're going to talk about the right presentation. And you're going to see on this chart that there's kind of a format here, okay? There's 7 pieces or 8 pieces to this actually. And I'm going to fill those pieces in, and so then you're going to get it, all right? So the first 4 items set the stage. So the first thing we're going to talk about in this presentation is the benefits, okay? And this is what I did for you today. I talked about the benefits. Talked about this is for you if you really want to grow your practice, if you really want to build momentum, if you want to become the expert in your niche, even if you're introverted, okay? I talked about those benefits. The next thing is you're going to talk about the core problem and who this presentation is for. So the core problem I talked about was how you have to wait so long to get ranking and traffic to your website and how, you know, you're so powerless. So that's what I talked about for you. You're going to do the same thing for your audience, and we're going to go through this child anxiety example. Then you're going to address the skepticism, because a lot of people are going to be drawn to what you're saying the benefits are, but they're doubtful, right? They're like, yeah, but, you know, this sounds really good. Yeah, but. So we're going to go ahead and address those, okay? And I'll show you in this presentation on child anxiety how we address that, so you can get that. And then the final piece of this, the setting the stage, is you're going to tell your story or someone else's story, okay? And you guys know I told you my story. I told you how I struggled myself and then how I finally overcame it. And you want that to be a true story, okay? All of this has to be true. It has to be true. It has to come across authentically. That's what works. People can tell if it's not. Okay, so these first 4 pieces set the stage for the part where we're actually now going to deliver the helpful information, which is what I'm doing right now, by the way. I'm giving you the helpful information. So this is what you need to do. A lot of people just jump into the helpful information, right? I'm a therapist. I want to be helpful. I'm going to give you all this information I know about anxiety. Well, if you don't do this first part, the setup, then they aren't going to really listen. They aren't going to be in the right frame of mind to take in and be impacted by what you're saying. All right? Okay, the helpful information, of course, is conducting the teaching segment of what it is that you want to impart to them. Okay? What knowledge, advice, help, information you have to give to them. That's what you're going to do in that section. And then the last 3 parts are, I say, to quote unquote close the sale. All right? Now, you may not always be selling something. You're always selling yourself, whether you want to call it that or not. You're always building your own credibility. So let's assume in this case that you actually wanted to have people come to see you as a therapist, or come to a group that you were putting together, or a workshop or something like that. In that case, that is going to be what we are offering. Okay. And so in this case, you're going to qualify who it's for, and you'll see me do that at the end because I actually have something to offer you, a training, okay, to offer to you on how to do all this stuff. So you're going to qualify who this is for, and then you're going to invite them to quote unquote buy or join or call you or whatever it is. And then you're going to recap the transformation that they can expect if they do this work with you. It's not a promise. It's basically reminding them of what can happen if they actually come and do the work and engage. Then things can change for them. All right. So that's what this is. That's what the whole format is. These 8 steps, and it works. All right. So let's talk about the benefits. Okay. The huge benefits with doing it this way is that list building, i.e. increasing your email list, is built in via the outreach. All right. So we routinely grow our list every time we do one of these webinars. You can routinely grow your list every time you do one. Webinar, teleseminar, whatever. Because you're, again, offering something out there, people sign up for it, and you grow your list. Your credibility continues beyond the presentation because the recordings are out there. So, for instance, today we had, I don't know how many people we had opt-in. Last I looked, we were over 200. Who knows if we're going to approach 300 or not. But today, I'm looking right now, on today's webinar, we only have, I think, 30 people here. That's very typical because you guys work, right? So we only have 30 people here today, but we have, whatever, let's say 250 to 300 who are on the list. So they're going to listen to the recording later. And then even later than that, it's going to be on our website. So if people want to go listen to it again and learn this stuff, they can. And it just continues to benefit us having it in that form. All right. So then the next thing is, the replay goes out to all the registrants. The recording is on your site. You can also put it on YouTube if it's a webinar. And by the way, we had a major little experiment, I don't know, maybe about 4 months ago, where we took one of our webinar recordings and we optimized it really well. And it enabled us to rank really high in Google, like in the #2 spot for the 2 biggest keywords in our niche. So we're getting a ton more traffic. You can do that as well. These things can go out there and be optimized and drive a lot of traffic to your website, okay? And finally, you can post it to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. All right? So you can take this digital asset, put it out there, it'll continue to pay back. Now, this is what's important about this whole thing. Consistency is key. If you decide, this is awesome, I'm going to do one of these things, and you go do one, you're going to get a little bang from the buck from the one, but the whole thing really starts snowballing when you do it consistently, okay? That is what has catapulted us, doing it consistently. So what I really suggest is that you commit to doing this once a month for a year. That's what I did. You know, my back was against the wall, right? You heard the story. And I decided, okay, I'm going to just do this. I don't know if it's going to work. I have no idea, but you know, come hell or high water, I'm going to do it every single month. And I did, and it's the best thing that ever happened. All right. More and more people will register. I've already shown you that. Your list will grow larger and larger. You'll become known as an expert. That's going to happen. And you'll get lots of calls and invitations to speak, most likely. If you do a good job of doing this, you're going to have people who are going to ask you to come speak. You can just decide you want to accept those or not, but it's nice to get asked, okay? All right, so there's a lot of details to this. I've shared the approach. I've given you a lot of information already on all the little pieces and how you do it and examples of good and bad. But, you know, I've been doing this for 2 years now, and there's a lot of little details here. And obviously, I can't share all of this with you today in an hour, right? So if you're interested in really using teleseminars and webinars to become an expert, then there is a course I'm giving. I've given it twice before. It's got rave reviews. We even had a waiting list. So I'll talk about that, how many seats are left. But it closes every time we give it. It fills up quickly. And I am giving this, and I want you to know about it. So this course isn't for you if you don't really want to build a reputation as an expert, okay? If you just want to kind of be a generalist and just take who comes and all this kind of stuff and not necessarily do outreach to kind of take control of your own destiny, it's not going to be for you. If you're not willing to try something new to build your practice, it's not going to be for you, okay? Because it's something different. It's something different than most people are doing. Most therapists are not doing this, okay? And the ones who are doing it are really standing out. But if you don't want to try it, it's probably not going to be the answer for you. If you really can't afford to invest a little bit in your practice. So the little bit is a little bit. We'll talk about price here in a second. It's not a big deal, okay? And we have a 2-payment option if you need it. So just know that you want to be able to actually go for it if you're going to do this. So this is for you if you really know that you have something to offer and you want to get it out there, okay? If you're chomping at the bit, if you know, I have so much value to give to people and I just need to be found and seen and whatever, you really want to get it out there, then this is for you, okay? It is for you also if you want to learn a system that works, okay? So I have honed this to perfection pretty much, okay? I'm sure I'm always improving it like I improve everything, but it is something that it's a system that you can do over and over and over. And once you get it down, it's pretty darn easy, okay? And then if you want support in making it happen, obviously this course is great support for it, okay? So here's the course. It's called Become an Expert via Teleseminars Webinars. It is a 5-week video course. It covers choosing topics, titles, and bullets. It's not just video, so hold tight there. But that's how the lessons are delivered via video. But you choose topics, help you choose topics, titles, and bullets so that you really know how to get people's attention. It's going to show you exactly how to do email campaigns, the content of them, and the schedule. And you get a handout with that, so you have that so you can do it every month. Outreach. It's going to teach you how to reach out effectively to invite other people, okay? Who to reach out to and how to be effective in that. And the presentation itself, we're going to cover that in gory detail, each piece of the presentation. And then finally, the platforms that we recommend and the training on using them, okay? So we have 2 different platforms that we recommend as the best in terms of webinars and teleseminars. We actually have a couple of different options in each of those categories. And so we're going to actually train you on using those, okay? So here's the details. The details are that this course is going to begin the end of this month, March 31st, okay? Last day of the month. The call schedule, there's going to be 3 calls for this course. So it's 5 drops of video training and 3 calls. The first call is going to be on the 31st, a kickoff call. The second call is going to be on the 14th, 2 weeks later. And then the third call is going to be 2 weeks later at the end of April. So the whole thing is going to be wrapped up in a month. All right. The value of this is pretty much priceless, I think. You know, our business last year increased by 260%. I could have never, ever guessed that was going to happen. I am so happy at how things are going. And I know it's because I just decided, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do this. And so I know it's going to pay off for you too. The cost of the course is $349 if you make one payment. Okay. So that is probably less than 1 client month for you guys. Okay. One payment, $349. If you want to make it in 2 payments, you can do 2 payments of $189. All right. So that's the cost. And then here's some more details. The format is you watch the video lessons on your own. There's 5 weeks of video lessons. And then we're going to have a private Facebook group that goes along with it. So we're going to post the questions and the discussions. You can post questions and start discussions with other class members. Megan and I will be out there as well, answering questions, giving you feedback on things. But there's a lot of, you don't have to sit back and wait for a call. You can post any questions and get answers as you go. Post your hey, here's what I'm thinking I'm going to use for a title and bullets. What do you guys think? Okay, and we'll give you feedback on that. We give pretty good feedback. Been doing this for a while. Okay, so it's a great way to get immediate feedback on what you're working on. And then, as I said, we have these 3 calls that are dedicated to Q&A and brainstorming with you. So you can have the voice-to-voice connection as well. Okay. The class is limited to 10 therapists only. And I have to tell you that there's already 3 people from the waiting list who have jumped on. Okay, so we really have 7 spots left. That's it. Okay, I know it's going to fill up. This isn't like a just fake scarcity tactic. It fills up every time. This is the 3rd time we've offered it. And we'll do it once a year or maybe twice a year, but probably once a year because we're getting so busy. So if you want to do it sooner than later, now is the time to do it. It will fill up. It's first come, first serve on enrollment, and we do have a guarantee, okay? And no one's ever taken us up on this. If you take the course and for whatever reason you don't feel that it was worth the money, I'll refund your payment. No one has ever asked for this because the amount of information and coaching and personal attention you get in this course is pretty much, you know, sky high. So no one has ever said, hey, you know, that wasn't so good. If you feel that way though, we will refund your payment in full. Okay. So that's the guarantee. All you got to do to sign up is go to counseling-wise.com/expert-course. Okay. Expert-course, and you can get your spot. All right. So let's talk again about why we're doing this. This is the fastest way that I have found to grow business, okay? Either a practice or, you know, the kind of practice I have, which is more national and coaching. It has more than doubled our business in 1 year. It's just been pretty amazing for us. So that's why I'm doing it. I want to teach you guys how to do this. The good thing about it is it's a repeatable process. So you don't have to like wonder what to do every month, okay? You're going to know what to do. And you're going to know that you're going to get this big incremental growth every time you do this. Okay, so that's what I love about it. Basically, come learn the system, change your income drastically, change your expertise, your credibility, all that good stuff drastically. Okay, so that's the deal. If you have questions, please type them in the chat. I know that there's some in there already, and I'm going to go in and answer those. If you have other questions, please type them in because I'm just going to start with the first questions and keep going. So go ahead and drop them in the chat. And again, here's the link to enroll. I'm just going to leave this up while I'm answering questions in the chat so that you guys can have that and there's no confusion about that. All right. Okie doke. I'm heading to the chat area now to answer questions. All right. So can you guys, I know that some people have asked I also see that Megan had a an issue with not being able to see things. And Becky, I'm hoping you got yours figured out and you got the sound. But go ahead and type in something and let me know if you guys can hear and see everything. All right. Tammy. Yeah. Thank you, Tammy. Numbers and storytelling. Yep. Okay, let's see. Peg, how do you get email addresses for other folks that would be interested? Hopefully you get that by now. But Peg, let's say that we're talking about, in this example, we talked about pediatricians, family docs, what did we talk, who else did we talk about? School counselors, speech pathologists, whatever, all these different folks. So one thing is you can do outreach onto their website or, whatever, or you can just outreach via LinkedIn. A lot of these people are out there and you can send them a personal message on LinkedIn and invite them. And we have grown our list tremendously by doing that, okay? So that's the way you can do it. Once they opt in into your webinar, they're now on your list forever, and they're going to get everything that you put out, okay? Lori, what system can be used to cohesively connect and provide information to attendees and adding them to your newsletter update list at the same time? Okay. So Lori, what ends up happening in the background is that you have what's called an autoresponder. Okay, so for instance, when you opted into this talk, you got on our list if you weren't already on our list, okay? And so you said, hey, I want to go to that webinar, and you just put your name and email in there, you're now on our list. So autoresponder such as MailChimp, Constant Contact, Aweber, any of those, they're just running on your website. They take the registration and they automatically add the person to your list. Okay, hopefully that's clear. Faith, you wanted to know about the platforms you use for webinars. Okay, so what we're using right now, the basic thing that I'm using is Google Hangouts. That's in the background, okay, Google Hangouts. Google Hangouts is free. I actually use something called Webinar Jam that sits on top of Google Hangouts because Google Hangouts changes a lot, and it's easier for me to just use Webinar Jam because they take care of all the interactions with Google Hangouts. If you're more patient with Google than I am, then you could just use Google Hangouts for free, okay? And there's other ones too. We will post this in the class. We'll share this with the class. I know there's another one that I think Stephanie Adams uses, the MYOB lady. There's some other ones that are good. And a lot of these are kind of webinars that sit on top of Google Hangouts, kind of an interface, but it's very, very simple, okay? Alex, let's see. Yeah, Alex chimed in. This is also really for you if you want to distinguish yourself from other therapists in your area who do the same type of counseling. That's totally true. I mean, you're going to just obliterate them, really, right? You're going to get out there and start making a name for yourself and being public and being known as the expert. And they're just, you're going to get known as the guy in town or the gal in town. That's all there is. That's all there is to it. Let's see. Oh, Becky, you said it's all good. Okay, good. You had another question, Becky. Do you have a DFY do for yourself service for teleseminar webinar? I think what you're talking about, Becky, is the actual platform there, hopefully. And yeah, and so you could use Google Hangouts. Oh, for a teleseminar, you could always use, there's free conference call, but the quality on that isn't very good. So there's a couple of different ones that we use. And the most recent one that we've landed on after trying a bunch of them and having sound quality and all that stuff is we have been using Instant Teleseminar, okay? So Instant Teleseminar for teleseminars, that's what we've been using. And there is a cost. I think it's pretty low. It's a monthly cost. But it's really good quality, and it also enables you, if you want, to show some charts, okay? So people could be online looking at charts, and they can also hear you on the phone. And so they don't have to see the charts, but they can hear your voice really clearly. It also records everything, and you have a MP4 file or MP3 file when you're done, all right? Faith, thank you. Sound quality with this has been quite good. Yeah, good, Faith, great. Okay, so that is it on questions. Does anyone have anything else that you want to put in the chat? Because I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have. again, this is something that has just helped us so much. I can't tell you. And it's really helping the psychologists that I've been working with as well, who have been implementing it. One thing I wanted to show you, go ahead and put questions in while I'm talking if you want me to answer any more. But one thing that happened with one of our guys, he did his first webinar, and he actually got a couple of people who had been clients before reactivated, okay? Because he put something out to his previous client saying, I'm giving this talk. And the talk he was doing was actually, you know, something like, does your child need counseling? And those parents saw that, and whatever was going on in their household had them say, yeah, I think we need to get back in. Okay, so they didn't even, I don't think, attend his webinar because they had already been clients, but they started doing therapy again. So that's another thing that can happen for you. You can re-engage. Okay, Kimberly, great question. What's the difference between a teleseminar and a webinar? So a teleseminar uses the phone only, okay? Instant teleseminar is something that can use the phone only, but it also has a component that you can use visuals online. But there's other non-web-based things, so telephone only, like free conference call. There's another one called Cauliflower, which is C-A-L-L-I, flower. And it's just phone only. So you're on the phone and your listeners are on the phone, and that's all that's needed. A webinar has, usually a real webinar has voice and visuals with it. Okay, that's the difference. Peg, it sounds like it can be useful even if I can't attend one of the calls. Yeah, so Peg, do you mean the course would be useful even if you can't attend one of the calls? If that's the case, yes, definitely. That is definitely the case. All the calls are recorded in the course, so you're going to be able to listen to all the calls anyway, and you're going to be able to obviously watch all the videos, all the video training, and be part of the private Facebook group. So if there's, you know, there's actually someone who was on the waiting list who joined who can't attend any of the calls, but she knows that she's going to get recordings of all of them. She can ask any questions she needs in the Facebook group, get feedback from the whole class and from Megan and I. And so to her, it's worth it, even though she can't attend the calls. Okay, yeah, that's the question, Peg. Good. All right, well, I don't see any other questions, and we're at about almost 5 till. So I'm going to give you like 30 seconds more to get your, there's one. Cathys, I have had really good experience with Maestro conferencing. I can do breakout groups, move from group to group for coaching. It is recorded. It's great for a teleclass. Awesome, Cathys. Great. Thanks for putting that out. There's so many options these days. Man, it's just getting better and better, and the internet's getting more reliable. So there's so many really good, affordable options out there. So check out Maestro conferencing too at Cathys' suggestion. Thanks for that. Appreciate that. Okay, I'm going to call it a wrap, y'all. So thanks for coming today. If you have any questions, as I mentioned, go ahead and let me go back to that. Here's that chart. You can always go to our website, counselinwise.com. There's a place to schedule a time to talk with me. My schedule's kind of crazy, but hop in there if you can. And get with me. I'll answer any questions you have. And also, you know, just go enroll if you're ready to do that, okay? I think you're going to be pretty darn happy that you did. Okay, that's it. Thanks for coming today, everybody. I'll talk to you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.